Trump trashes Canada again, while Canadian politicians just try to keep up. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
The answers you need
from the people in the know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
It just never ends with this guy. U.S. President Donald Trump was back in the Oval Office yesterday and back to trashing Canada.
Canada's been very bad to us on trade, but now Canada's going to have to start paying up. And Canada's been tough on the military because they have a very low military cost. They think we're going to, protect them with our military, which is unfair. So Canada's going to be a very interesting situation because, we just don't need their product. And yet they survive off the fact that we do 95% of what they do. And Canada is just absolutely, I say it, and sometimes people smile and sometimes they say great idea, but Canada, their taxes would come down greatly, their security would go up greatly. Amazing things happen to Canada, and really Canada in this particular, why would we pay $200 billion a year in subsidies to Canada when they're not a state? You do that for a state, but you don't do that for somebody else's country. So I think Canada is going to be a very serious contender to be our 51st state.
Trump has already signed an order that would see a 25% tariff on all steel and aluminum exports from Canada to the U.S. Those are supposed to come into effect March 12th. An across-the-board 25% tariff was put on hold for 30 days. That expires March 4th. And the Trump administration has said any new tariffs would be piled on top of any existing tariffs. Yesterday, Trump said he has explained all of his gripes to Governor Trudeau.
I spoke to Governor Trudeau on numerous occasions, and we'll see what happens. But it just sets up so good for them. Look, the people would pay much less tax than they're paying right now. They'd have perfect military protection. They don't have any military protection because and you take a look at what's going on out there. You have Russian ships, you have China ships, you have Chinese ships, you have a lot of ships out there, and people are in danger. This is a different world today. It's a different world. They need our protection.
As for Canadian reaction to all of this, all of Canada's premiers are back in Canada now after a 2-day trip to Washington, with some wondering if they achieved anything. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew told news reporters he thinks he's been making inroads with a member of Trump's cabinet, the U.S. Secretary of the Interior, Doug Burgum.
In terms of the conversation we have, I think I'll just describe it at a high level. And so we talked a lot about energy and critical minerals and some of his priorities. And of course, we touched on the tariffs and the border, and really just building a strong relationship. For me, it's important that we have somebody in the Trump administration who knows where Manitoba is on a map. And the fact that we have that good friendship across the border, and we now have that ability to strengthen that with somebody who's in the cabinet of the Trump administration, I think is an important sign. And so that meeting and connection with Secretary Burgum is very important to me and important to the province. And as we continue to build that relationship, I think it'll be a good friendship for our two countries.
Within the federal cabinet, Anita Anand is the Minister of Transport and the Minister of Internal Trade. She's also a former Minister of National Defense. She's also announced she's leaving politics. But she claims the Trudeau government is one of the top spenders in NATO, and that it's committed to spending more.
Canada is the 6th largest contributor to NATO in absolute terms. And in terms of the NATO defense target of 2%, we are looking at ways to accelerate it. The Prime Minister has announced that we will reach it by 2032, but obviously it's necessary to continue to accelerate our defense spending, which we have been doing. We have increased our defense spending by over 50% during the past 7 years or so. And we've invested in large projects. Look at the F-35s, for example, 88 of them for the Canadian Air Force. Look at the Arctic offshore patrol ships and the surface combatants, Michael. So the work that we are doing is something that we will continue to ensure occurs.
From an outgoing Liberal cabinet minister to the person who could be the next Prime Minister of Canada, Liberal leadership hopeful Mark Carney was stumping in Vancouver and said his focus would be on strengthening the Canadian economy and getting things built, although he offered few specifics.
I'm careful in what I say about the current status of negotiations. You may have seen, I should say, that my focus has majored on what we should do here in Canada to strengthen our economy, irrespective of what the Americans take. And I've a lot of experience in negotiations. One of the most important things in negotiations is that you have options. And of course, a strong Canadian economy is in our interest, is all Canadians' interest. We have many, many ways to do that. I've said from the start that it's time to build. Il faut bâtir l'avenir. And we should do that now to strengthen our negotiating position as well. In terms of the real-time negotiations, leave that to the current Prime Minister and the ministers of the Crown.
As for the Conservatives, there is a Conservative caucus meeting in Ottawa today with some polls showing a slip in popular support for the Tories after the Trudeau resignation and the Trump noise. These polls show new life for the Liberals. The Conservatives are also having a big rally, dubbed the Canada First Rally. That's tomorrow at a downtown Ottawa convention center. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
You have questions.
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
Well, he's our expert in communications, crisis communications, political communications, branding, and leadership. Barry McLoughlin is the president of TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants. Barry lectures at the Telfer School of Management at the University of Ottawa and at the MBA program at the Shannon School of Business at Cape Breton University. And welcome back.
Thank you very much, Rob. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to hear from you today, Barry. So Canadians are looking, they tell us, for Canadian-made products because of the Trump situation. And as such, some Canadian companies are appealing to our sense of national pride. And we witnessed that on Super Bowl Sunday, a number of Canadian companies with Super Bowl ads on the Canadian broadcast. So let's play some of these and get your thoughts. First of all, this ad from Kraft.
A whole lot of Canadian pride goes into what we do at Kraft. There's real Canadian wheat and cheese in this box of KD, and 100% Canadian dairy in this Philadelphia cream cheese. The peanuts in Kraft peanut butter, roasted right here in Canada. Other Canadian classics, prepared here in our factory in Montreal, Quebec, where over 1,000 proud Canadians help bring Kraft to the rest of Canada. Kraft, made by Canadians for Canadians.
Okay, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, that's a very important one for that company. Yeah, they're Kraft Heinz or Heinz Kraft, whatever. Very branded American. I actually did a serious contract for them a number of years ago, Heinz International. Okay. And they have America stamped all over them. And it's a bit unfair because they actually have invested very significantly in Canada and et cetera, et cetera. So that was really important for them to do. I think they did a really good job of that. I think most Canadians would go, wow, I didn't know that. Because part of those lists of that, people now have online on their apps, buy Canadian, they instead of Heinz will buy, French's ketchup. Well, yes. Actually, Heinz actually makes its ketchup in Canada now. So they have a lot of catching up to do. And I think they get the zeitgeist that we're all in. The little tell on that, by the way, was it said Montreal, Quebec. We just say Montreal up here.
Right. Yes, we I did
Toronto.
notice
we don't
that.
say Toronto.
Yeah. In case Canadian, you don't know where Montreal is. Right. Yeah. Okay. So let's go, to one of the, the best known Canadian brands, Tim Hortons.
Hello out there. We're on the air. It's football day today. Tension grows, the whistle blows, and the ball goes far away. The receiver jumps, and the players bump, and the fans all go insane. Someone roars, Travis scores at the good old football game. Oh, the good old football game. It's the second best game you can name. And the second best game you can name is the good old football game.
All right, so A little Stomp and Tom inspired there. Barry, what do you think?
Yeah. That was so good on so many levels, and I did laugh during it. Saw it a number of times during the game. I thought, home run. It brought back Stomp and Tom. He's so aligned with hockey night in Canada, the whole song. But to transform that into football and to second best in the world, it was perfect. I thought that was the execution that was magnificent.
And finally, home hardware.
This is a message from the Payzants, from the Ho family, from Sophie and Philippe, the Kurzaks, the Bushers, and the Flanagans. This is a message from over 1,000 family-owned home hardware stores, serving communities across Canada for over 60 years. Whatever your project is, we're here for you to help you build your dreams and build a brighter future together for the place we all call home. We're proud to be locally owned and genuinely Canadian.
They're so good at that, Barry.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when I was a kid in high school, I had a part-time job at Home Hardware at Westgate Shopping Center, and I wasn't very good at it, but I did it. It was truly Canadian, truly family-owned. It doesn't have to be and notice it was not fancy. There was no fancy graphics. There was nothing about that. It was so down home, and of course, that is their brand, and pulled it off well. It just reminded us, all those mega big companies up against them, but, really well done also, but a totally different kind of commercial.
So what would be your advice to, companies who are kind of looking to, let's face it, there's a business opportunity here for if Canadians are looking at labels. What should they be thinking about? You
got it. You've got to be able to do it in a way that just doesn't, sloppily wrap yourself in the flag. I think you have to demonstrate your roots, your bona fides, of course, because in the end, customers want quality. They want competitive pricing. They won't just buy for the sake of it that you're Canadian, especially if your brand is a little bit obscure and people really don't know. I think this is an opportunity now. John F. Kennedy's definition of crisis, equals danger plus opportunity. And it's the opportunity side of this that the crisis that we're all in, there's no question about it, is really what these companies, if they're not doing it now, should be fully exploring. What's our opportunity in this crisis scenario?
Would you expect to see more of this as this goes on?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think we've only scratched the surface of this. There's a lot more to come.
Okay. Look, when we come back, we'll talk about domestic politics. Mark Carney, everyone seems to agree he's the person to beat in this Liberal leadership race, but he's really keeping it close to the vest, Barry. He's not saying very much about how he would govern the country. He could be prime minister just weeks from now. He's running what they call a classic front-runner campaign. What's your take on it? I'm Rob Snow, here with Barry McLoughlin from TLC Transformational Leadership Consultants. This is Now You Know on News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
Barry McLoughlin is with us from TLC Transformational Leadership Consultants. He's the president of Transformational Leadership Consultants. Let's talk about the Liberal leadership race and the man everyone expects to win this thing, Mark Carney. He's running a front-runner campaign. What would you say are the ingredients of a front-runner campaign?
Well, it's very important to realize that all guns will be aimed at you, and all the others are taking shots. It's a genteel kind of leadership race, I think, this one. But nevertheless, media are really stepped up review of everything about him. So he has to, of course, there's a caution that always is there when you're the front runner. Don't blow it. But I think at the same time, you and I spoke about this, and he did step it up. He has to make announceables of something very tangible. Ideally, announceables that are different from Justin Trudeau's. Otherwise, his downside is same old, it's still Justin Trudeau, his advisor, blah, blah. So he's trying to be the outsider. Boy, that's a tough one to pull off when you're well out ahead and you've been well connected to Liberals over the years. So he does have a challenge. There's no question about this. But I think given the bubble that he's in right now, there is a bubble going on, and it quickly evaporated the Conservative lead because people are anxious and fearful and angry about the United States, about what's going on, the threats This has come to the forefront. Nobody knew that on January 6th, really, that it would just take off like a rocket like this. And it has. And he has a double-edged sword here to deal with.
Okay. I mean, he made the announcement about the carbon tax, but he really hasn't said too much since then, Gary.
Well, he's going to replace it with other kinds of taxes, I suppose, at the industry level, or
right.
But I think, look, he's already. You and I talked about it last summer. He answered my question in public. I'm going to drop. We don't need the carbon tax. So that was a heads up. And I'm very, very surprised that the Conservatives have spent every dollar of advertising, carbon tax, Carney, and the whole. It just went on, and every one of them have bailed on it. So I think you have to shift to where the public is. I mean, I think it was, an Italian, leader 500 years ago who said, "Quick, tell me where my people are going so I can get out in front and lead them." And you got to make sure you're doing that. Get out in front of where people are really concerned about. And I think he's definitely stepping up on that. So really, the game has changed. Just since you and I started talking about this a few weeks ago. This has changed. This is a race.
Yeah, just in the last 3 weeks, the whole nature of the campaign has changed, right?
Yeah.
From a change campaign to it's quite something.
Yeah. And really, in the end, what's he going to do in terms of 3 weeks from now? He could be the Prime Minister of Canada, right? The odds are that's the odds. And if he is the Prime Minister of Canada, he's got a narrow window. Does he face Parliament and risk getting booted right then? Failing, he may have to meet Parliament for a major money bill.
Well, he seems to be hinting, though, that he wants to be kind of, I guess, the master of his own destiny, and that I think he wants to call the election right away. Well, I think he wants to, first of all, distance himself from the NDP. Like that is over. We're not tied to the NDP anymore. And if we go into an election campaign, then there will be spending limits on the Conservative campaign. They won't be able to spend all of this war chest that they have. So I would see some strategic benefit there. What about you?
Oh, yeah. Well, although we've had, a history in Canada, John Turner, Kim Campbell, leading the polls on the day that they became, prime minister, in effect, through leadership. And then, it began to evaporate. They were both urged to call immediate elections, or in Kim's case, she waited, 3 or 4 months and then called, or 2 or 3 months and then called it. But it can evaporate. So I think in his case, he has to go early. But his real challenge will be in this narrow 3-week election, or whatever, their 4-week election period. I have to absolutely define myself. I cannot allow myself to be branded as a Trudeau light, I've absolutely got to have my own brand. So that's his challenge there. But I do agree. I do think he will have to go early. I don't see an option for him to stay until the fall. He's not even in Parliament. If they get back in, they'll lose control of the narrative. The Conservatives will take hold of them, and that'll be it. So I do think that he will go early, with this caveat that branding Mark Carney and a Carney government, how does that differ substantially from what we've had before?
Okay. Well, it could be an interesting couple of months ahead, Barry, I think. Thank you so much. Great to hear from you today. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye. Barry McLoughlin is the president of TLC Transformational Leadership Consultants. Tom Korski is the managing editor at Blacklock's Reporter in Ottawa, and he'll join us next here on News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now you know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
Well, he's been minding Ottawa's business all week long. Tom Korski is back with us. He's the managing editor at Blacklock's Reporter. Welcome back.
Thank you, Rob.
What is the digital services tax in Canada, Tom, and what's Donald Trump been saying about it?
Well, it was going to be a huge windfall in the fantasy realm of the Department of Finance. What did they do? They were going to impose a 3% income tax, essentially, on the big U.S. multinational digital service companies, Amazon, Facebook, Google. And in fact, they required them to register with the Canada Revenue Agency just a few days ago on January 31st. And their first tax payment was due on June 30th. It was going to be great, Rob. It was going to be worth billions, and no one was going to complain except the Americans. What did Trump say just yesterday? He said that it was illegal. By the way, there are Canadian analysts who have said it's an illegal tax, and that it is a trade barrier that will draw reciprocal punishment within 180 days unless Cabinet knocks it off. I think that tax is dead, Rob.
Now, the money that was to be raised by the digital services tax, was it dedicated to go somewhere? Was this, part of the money, for example, say supposed to go to cultural industries in Canada, the ailing media companies or whatever, Tom? Or was it just a general revenue thing? What do you know?
Well, there was some robbing Paul and paying Peter. There was some speechifying about the good things that were going to come from this tax. But like all taxes, it just goes into the big general revenue fund. It goes to the Treasury, and heavens knows what happens to those dollars. What was interesting in this case was Cabinet knew it was a flyer. Let's be frank, Rob. There were members of Parliament that said, you can't do this under the Income Tax Act. It's sort of like taxing GST on goods that are sold aboard international flights that happen to cross through Canadian airspace. Nice try, but it's probably not going to fly.
Right. So you think the sun is setting on the digital services tax? Probably
it
dead.
Appears to be, it was a Hail Mary pass, and it was intercepted.
Okay. All right. Okay. Gotcha. We talked last week about the week before about the court challenges program, and now there's been an investigation by an Ottawa-based think tank about it, the McLoughlin Institute. What did it find?
Fascinating study, first of its kind by this institute you mentioned, Rob, and it looked at all the cases that have been funded by the court challenges program. What is the program? It provides grants that you take your application, goes to a board at the University of Ottawa. This is for the whole country. And it provides grants to hard luck litigants who are really up against the David and Goliath, and they will give you some free money to help you cover your expensive litigation. What did the McLoughlin Institute discover? That if you were a liberal cause, you had a 96 out of 100 chance of getting a grant. And if you were a conservative cause, you had 0 chance. So why didn't liberals bat 100? It was only because there was one case the analysts could find where the political persuasion was not obvious. It appeared to be a neutral dispute over campaign financing.
Right. But the idea that, I think property rights, for example, should be included in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. I want to say launch some kind of court challenge. The chances of me getting funding from the court challenges program probably slim to none, I suspect, Don.
Pretty much 0. Freedom of religion. I mean, there are a lot of litigants, left, right, and center, who file rights cases. I'll tell you, the Freedom Convoy, true fact, I'll keep it short. I spoke to counsel in town. There were Freedom Convoy defendants who were charged with mischief, had bank accounts frozen. They literally could not hire a lawyer in Ottawa. It was that political. And it turns out, according to a federal judge, that there were constitutionally unlawful activities by Cabinet, not the protesters. So anyone who says there's no politics in the law, I beg to differ.
Okay, let's talk about the new Minister of Finance, really the new Minister of everything in the late days of this Trudeau government, Mr. LeBlanc, Dominic LeBlanc, longtime member of Parliament from New Brunswick, of course, and he has admitted that the Irvings, the tycoon family of New Brunswick, they're longtime family, friends of his. What does that mean for his role as the Minister of Finance?
Well, it's a bit of a problem. He says the CEO of J.D. Irving Incorporated, Jamie Irving, is a great friend, as you mentioned. They're such good personal friends. They've socialized, and in fact, the Minister of Finance has even flown on Jamie Irving's private jet, so that's pretty close. Unfortunately, almost all the Irving enterprises, not all, but pretty much all, are federally regulated. And that means the Minister of Finance is now in a position to really help out his buddy. Well, that's against an act of Parliament called the Conflict of Interest Act. And the Liberals invented something 9 years ago called the Conflict of Interest Screen. And what that means is you tell your staff that if, say, a business item comes up regarding the J.D. Irving refinery in St. John, oh, by the way, the biggest oil refinery in the country, I don't want to hear anything about that. These are not without controversy, Rob. There have been critics of these conflict of interest screens who have said, look, it's kind of a sham. Everybody knows. Why are we pretending? It's interesting.
Yeah, but he will have to recuse himself from any kind of, one assumes, cabinet discussions or any kind of decision making in anything that involves any Irving company.
It is, although it would be difficult to imagine that scenario where you would be in cabinet and someone would say, I think we ought to increase the depletion allowance for oil refineries. And you would say, well, in theory, yes, but not for my friend Jamie. No, I'm just going to the water cooler. I'll be back in 10 minutes. You let me know what your decision is. Right. This is the problem.
All right. We'll be right back. We're going to talk about IT troubles in the government. You won't believe some of the latest information that they have at Blacklock's Reporter on this. When we come back with Tom Korski, the managing editor at Blacklock's Reporter, I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
We're back with Tom Korski, managing editor at Blacklock's Reporter. Shared Services Canada is one of the largest departments in the federal government in terms of employment. I mean, it has more than 10,000 employees, and yet if you asked, I think the average taxpayer, you stopped 100 people on the street and you asked, what does Shared Services Canada do? I think you'd get a lot of blank stares back. But what they do is they run all the IT, right, for the federal government, Tom? Shared Services Canada?
Yeah, it's their IT department. That's right.
Yeah. And they've been doing a streamlining in IT across government, trying to modernize the IT infrastructure for the government of Canada. How's that going?
So.
You're too generous, actually.
So it's been 14 years. They've been in business for 14 years, and they had one job, Rob. Yeah. And the job was to take 100 different email systems and turn it into one. And there were 3,000 little in-house intranets in these departments. Just turn it into one. They found that, this goes way back, 2011, they found that some email systems couldn't even connect with other email systems within the same government of Canada, right here in Ottawa and the branches across the country. So they had one job. Let's put it all together. So remember, this is 14 years. This is less time than it took to put a man on the moon or invade Normandy. 14 years. How are they doing so far? They say an internal report, we're about two-thirds done, as you mentioned. 10,000 staff. We spend billions on contractors, but we're not quite across the finish line yet. Rome wasn't built in a day, Rob.
Yeah, not a day. I wonder if it did take 14 years to build Rome, however.
How long did it take to build the Colosseum?
So they're saying maybe probably at this pace, another 5 years. Another 5 years anyway. I wonder how much all of that has cost. Has anybody ever tallied that up?
That's never been costed. My favorite was, despite the 10,000 IT guys, they spent $4.3 billion on contractors. And they awarded 12,000 contracts last year. Rob, someone is paying off their speedboat on this deal. You better believe it.
I bet so. Yeah. Phoenix, the Phoenix pay system. We're sticking with government IT's kind of a theme. So the Phoenix pay system was supposed to be this grand rationalization of all the pay systems across the federal bureaucracy, because maybe if you worked at the RCMP, they use this kind of software. If you worked at the Treasury Board, they used this kind of software, and you get the idea. Let's have, instead of a dozen different payroll systems, let's have one, and it'll be called Phoenix. It was actually a conservative idea. It's plagued 2 governments now. What's the latest on this?
Well, it's not going so great, and my favorite is the compensation. The latest figures for compensation for employees. By the way, this is not the cost of the software fixes. That's billions. This is not the cost of making sure that the payroll computer actually works. This is compensation for federal employees for general damages. It was about $2,500 each. Special damages, if you missed your rent or lost your credit rating, heavens forbid, there were cases of foreclosure where employees went months without a check. We're up to $711 million. How's that for a moonshot? $711 million in compensation, not including the additional billions to actually fix the system. Rob, to this day, you know this. All you have to do is walk into a room in the Government of Canada and say, I have an idea to improve our IT, and everybody jumps out a window.
I mean, you can imagine how long this is going on. It goes back to the Harper government. So, I mean, it's more than 10 years now, right? So
2015, it was finalized. 2016, they flipped the switch and said, this is going to be great. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And they are still, in the budget, they are still paying out compensation for people whose paychecks were messed up.
That's right.
They're still paying for that this year.
That's right.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Any time. And what did they say? What was the promise of the Phoenix Space System? They were going to save $70 million a year. Oh, woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Well, swing and a miss. Okay. Finally, what are they doing at the Immigration Department, Tom? What are they doing at the Immigration Department about a new ID?
Rob, they're doing something that MPs and senators have told them over and over for years to drop dead on. They will simply not drop this. We see the Minister of Immigration, Mr. Miller, has commissioned confidential data, polling on using the passport as a national ID card within Canada. All you have to do is say national ID, and this is not just conservatives or libertarians, left, right, and center have told Cabinet over and over, forget national ID. It's an invasion of privacy. It'll cost a fortune. Drop it. And they just won't.
So they're still polling on it. What do you think
about
it?
They asked people in a passport survey, how comfortable would you be sharing a secure digital version of the passport within Canada as an identity document? Can you imagine?
Okay. Thank you for minding Ottawa's business, Tom. Great to hear from you. We'll speak soon.
Thank you, Rob. You bet.
Yeah, that's Tom Korski. He's the managing editor of Blacklock's Reporter. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Well, here with David Smith on a Friday, and we made it, David.
Yeah, we sure did.
We made it. It's a long weekend, by the way.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Isn't that great? It's the Family Day long weekend in Ontario, so we're taking that off. It's also Family Day, I believe, in Alberta.
Yes, it is.
I think it's a holiday is it a holiday in Nova Scotia as well?
I believe that's what the boss said. Some kind of holiday.
Okay. Yeah. I always kind of had a grudge against Family Day.
Yeah.
But the older I get, I begin to appreciate this long weekend in February because Family Day was in Ontario anyway.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Yeah. Okay.
Was an election gimmick.
Right.
David. It was an election gimmick by Premier Dalton McGuinty. Okay. Right. Who should have been defeated.
Yeah.
But was not defeated and went on to govern for several more years, but should have been defeated easily. And instead, the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario, who was led at the time by former mayor of Toronto, John Tory. They ran a terrible, terrible campaign that all wrapped up into faith-based schools, when it all should have been about Dalton McGuinty's broken promises and his tax increases. And while John Tory was tying himself in knots over the issue of funding faith-based schools, in other words, in Ontario, funding other schools beyond funding Catholic schools, extending public funding to other faith-based schools, they just let John Tory twist in the wind on that. And Dalton McGuinty said, if you elect me, I will give you a long weekend in February. And we'll call it Family Day. And that was all they needed. And Liberals won a massive majority government, and the Progressive Conservative Party did not. And the rest is history. John Tory didn't even win his own riding in that election. And forever and a day, I thought, that Family Day. Nothing but an election ploy. But now that it's here, I can't wait for the long weekend.
Yeah, I have noticed the more time that elapsed since then, the less you complain about it every year. So that's good.
That's true enough.
That's growth.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. It's also called Family Day in Nova Scotia, by the way.
It is. Yeah. Okay. So everybody have a good Family Day. In this part of the country, we're bracing for another 30 to 35 centimeters of snow. We'll be digging out on that Family Day Monday after we just got almost 40 centimeters. So it's a lot of stuff to do. So look, the Friday free-for-all is coming up.
Yes, it is.
Right after the news at the top of the hour. And we have our old phone number back.
We sure do.
Which is great. We don't have to give out 4 phone numbers like we had to do over the last couple of days. But I really want to thank our engineer, Terry, who has been working nonstop to try and get that problem resolved for us. And we believe we have Terry-rigged something, and we have it all figured out now.
Yeah.
So right after the news, we'd love to hear from you, especially our loyal callers. 1-833-668-2577. And Andrea is standing by, and she'll take your call, and we'll put you right on the air, lickety-split, right after the news. On Fridays, we don't come up with the topics. We've been doing that all week. So we're more than happy on Fridays to follow your lead, whatever it happens to be. It's open line, open topic on the Friday Free-for-All Talkback. Coming up right after the news. Latest breaking news at the top of the hour. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. And today it's the Friday Free-for-All. And that's our favorite day of the week around here. We don't come up with the topics on Fridays. We've been doing that all week. So today we'll leave that heavy lifting up to you. What's on your mind? What do you want to talk about? If you want to talk about something that's been in the news, there's certainly no shortage of material to work with. If you want to talk about something that you think should be in the news, we're all ears, whatever it happens to be. Pick your issue, pick your topic. We will do our best to follow along. And we have our normal phone line back today. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. I really hope to hear from you today on the Friday Free-for-All Talkback. Let's, in fact, take a call right now. See how things are working. Let's go to Charlie is in Halifax. Hello, Charlie. You're on the air.
Hello, Rob. Good afternoon.
Hi,
Quick story, and then I'll get to what I have to say. Last weekend, my wife and I were in Maine visiting our daughter. We went to a restaurant on a Saturday afternoon, and I'm wearing a jacket, and at the bottom of my left sleeve, there's a Canadian patch. The waitress comes over and she goes, "Oh, you're from Canada." I go, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh, we love Canadians here. We just love Canadians." And the other people were all, "We love Canada. We love Canada."
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, yeah. And the waitress actually said, "You know, we're so sorry for what our president's doing to Canada, right?" And I said, "Well, you know what? and Rob, I've been going to the States since I was like 5 years old, and I have relatives in the States. And,
Right.
Majority of people, they can't believe what's going on, right? But now I'm going to get to what I have to say.
All right.
I wish at this point in time in history that Pierre Elliott Trudeau was the prime minister, because he would not allow Trump to be disrespecting our country the way he is. And I wish that we had a politician that would stand up for this country and tell him enough is enough, right? But, it just shows you, as Canadians, we're not children like he is, because, we could start, maybe one of our politicians could start calling him the Friar of America, right? But we don't do that. We won't stoop to that level whatsoever. And another thing, Rob, Canadians that calling into the shows and saying, oh, well, maybe we'd be better off, if we did become the 51st state. Well, let me tell you something. We have our issues here already, but they would triple with shootings in schools. We hear about it every 2 days. Trump's worried about drugs in our country. We would be flooded with drugs, crime, infested. I can't believe that people would be calling up and disrespecting our country like that.
Yeah, I haven't taken too many. I have taken some calls from people who say they wouldn't mind being the 51st state, but I would say it's the minority opinion that's been expressed so far. This has gone on.
We have our
I'm just curious. I mean, you say, you wish Pierre Trudeau was the prime minister. What do you think he would do that the current people aren't doing?
Well, he would do you know what, Rob? I'm sure you remember when Pierre was in and Nixon was the president. I mean, Trudeau stuck up to Nixon. He told basically Nixon where to go, and he stood up for our country. Yeah. That's one thing about Pierre. He stood up for Canada.
Yeah. Well, there was no love lost between those two, of course. So,
no,
you had Nixon, the ardent anti-communist. Well, you had, Pierre Trudeau singing the praises and hanging out with Fidel Castro. You can imagine the two of them didn't get along very well.
No, anyway. Rob, I just want to let you know. I was brought up in Roxborough, Quebec, down by Point Claire.
Roxborough. Yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah. But anyways, that's all I had to say.
Well, look,
Rob,
Charlie, great to hear from you today. Thank you so much. Okay, great to hear from you.
And wave the flag. Wave the flag tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah, tomorrow's Flag Day. I already have a flagpole, and Canadian flag flies proudly 365 days a year where I am. Actually, when I moved into this place, there was a flag on there. It was ratty and faded, and it was one of the first things that I replaced in this house when I moved in. I have a friend of mine who worked for an MP who actually got me a flag just in time for Canada Day way back when. Let's go to Michelle in Calgary. Hi, Michelle.
Hi there. I called you last week, and I was one of the people that was adamant about he wants Canada, and I had said he wants our minerals, oil, water, and space. That was me. I've been listening to your show all week, and what I can't understand is there's a G8 or G7 summit in Kananaskis in Alberta this year.
Yeah, in June.
Supposedly, we don't let convicted felons come across the border for any reason. What the heck are they going to do with him? And the other thing is,
well, what do you think they should do?
I think he should be barred, and he can send his vice president, because this man is a criminal. He's a narcissist. I said last week he was a dictator. That's proven out. The fact that he wants to consume poor Greenland, is this not a total violation of international law? The way he's going after everybody in the world, including us, who have had trade agreements in place for a long time, and suddenly he just wants to turn the card table upside down. It's my way or the highway, or I take you over. This is a little boy in an old man's suit. And what is wrong with his brain? Why do the American people not think that he needs to get assessed? There is something, he contradicts. He's a hypocrite. He's cruel. He's mean. He plays mind games. And he lies which way and up and down. But why would we let him into our country? We're not going to make an exception for a president. We wouldn't do it for Putin. We wouldn't do it for the leader of Syria. Why would we do it for Trump? And, you know, we're a peacekeeping nation. We're not a warring nation. I said last week, I've lived in the States. I was around there when the Vietnam War was going on. I was going to school as a teenager. And on the radio, every single damn morning was the death count of the young, beautiful men being massacred in Vietnam, which was a pointless war that the Americans really wanted to get into. We know the disaster that was. We know what happened in Iraq. Why would we want to be a part of that? Why would we want to lose women's...
Okay.
Right.
I got you. You're not a fan. You're not a fan. You're not a fan.
No.
I hear you loud and clear. I don't know. Just diplomatically speaking, I don't know. People have expressed this sentiment on this show before. He shouldn't be allowed into the country. Imagine this if you're the Prime Minister of Canada. Are you really going to tell Air Force One that it can't land in Canada? I don't know. See what happens with that. Okay, thank you, Michelle. It's the Friday Free for All Talkback, 1-833-668-2577. Give us a call. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So Friday Free for All Talkback, so we'll follow your lead today. Let's go to Kyle in Listowel, Ontario. How are you?
Good. All right. So Joe asked the other day what it means to be Canadian, and this is what it means to me to be Canadian.
Okay.
It means being Canadian means Tim Hortons is both a coffee shop and a personality trait. It means complaining about the weather year-round, but then getting mad if someone from another country talks smack about it. It's calling it a toque instead of a beanie and watching people get confused. And let's not forget that being Canadian means paying $12 for a bag of milk, explaining to Americans why we have the king on our money, and using the word a like it's a punctuation. Oh, and there's also one more thing. It also means that when you say sorry in the right way, it could also mean, excuse me, my bad, or hey, what the heck, the Leafs just won again? Well, sorry, man, they're not going to make the playoffs. Thanks, Rob. Have a great weekend, and I enjoy your show. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Okay, Kyle. Eric is in Halifax. Hello, Eric.
Hey, how you doing this afternoon, Rob?
I'm good, Eric. Thanks. What's up?
You were right on with the Eagles.
I was pretty close. Yeah, pretty close. Yeah. They looked pretty good.
Yeah, well, that game reminded me of a baseball game. And the reason why I say that is because good pitching will stop good hitting. And the defense of Philadelphia didn't give Kelsey a shot, didn't let Mahomes run around like he normally does. Mm-hmm. And at the end of it, when it was all said and done, it was Philadelphia who controlled the game. I mean, they made Kansas City made a little run there at the end, but it was just too late.
Yeah, too late. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you see the game?
I expected Philadelphia to win. I made that prediction 27-14. What was the final? It was 40-22 or something like that, I think.
Yep, 40-22, you're right. Yep.
Yeah, I was really, really impressed with how they were able to just neutralize the two weapons for Kansas City. As you say, Mahomes, Kelsey. I mean, Kelsey was nowhere in the first half. I think he ended with two catches, not many yards. Yeah. They're worthy champions. That's for sure.
Well,
if you had told me at the same time, Kansas City was also very good at shutting down Barkley. Like Barkley, it's not like Barkley had a big game. Right.
At the start of the game, there was 4 people that was going to dictate that game, and only one of them showed up, and that was Hurst. The other 3 people didn't show up.
And A.J. Brown had a good game, but if you had told me, I think Barkley only in the first half he only had 23 rushing yards. If you had told me, Kansas City limited Barkley to 23 yards in the first half, you would think Philadelphia would be having a bad game, and yet they were up, I think, like 23-0 at the half. So, I'm going to miss football. I'm looking forward to the start of the CFL season on June 5th, and we'll get that going again. But are you watching the hockey?
Well, hockey, I'm watching the hockey, and I don't understand why we're booing the states and all that, because the majority of the players that play for the NHL are Canadians. So when you boo the states, you're booing your country. And I don't understand
but this is an
that
American
at all. I mean, I
team.
watched
This
it
is an
last
American
night there
team,
when they
though.
booed
Yeah.
Matthews,
Yeah.
and I thought Matthews was laughing at them. He thought that was a joke. But next year, if God spares me, I think Philly and Kansas City will meet again, because right now they're tied 1-1. And I think that
they won a rubber match. Okay. All right.
They won a rubber match. And what do you think about Guerrero? I think Guerrero wants out of Toronto. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really following the Jays right now. I'm not really into baseball mode. I haven't.
Yeah. Okay, I'll throw these two teams out you for in hockey in the Stanley Cup. A repeat of last year, Florida against Edmonton.
Oh, I think in the National Hockey League, I think the team to beat this year, I think it's Winnipeg is the team to beat right now.
Winnipeg is, Halifax played good last night for the States. There's no doubt about it. But I'm just saying that Edmonton wins that third game last year at home when they lost in overtime. They would have won the Stanley Cup, and that's what I bank it on. So I mean, that's basically what I'm going for. And as far
as long as I have a hard and fast rule when it comes to the National Hockey League, anybody but the Leafs. Okay.
Anyone but the Leafs. Well, you and a lot of other people feel the same way.
Thank you. I got to run.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks. Good to hear from you, Eric. Thank you. Yeah, if you want to talk sports, we can talk sports. I actually wanted to ask you about this whole booing thing, booing the Star-Spangled Banner. They did that last night in Montreal, Finland, and the United States. They're booing the Star-Spangled Banner. What do you think of that? Throw that out there as a topic today. It's a Friday free-for-all Talkback. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Oh, it's not just any Talkback. It's the Friday free-for-all Talkback. So pick a topic, we'll roll with it. Luann is in Calgary. Hello, Luann.
Well, hello. How are you today?
I'm good, Luann. Thank you. What's up?
I wanted to talk a little bit about mental health and the craziness in our world right now. There's a lot we have no control over, Rob. We don't have control over people's affecting us. What we do have control over is how much we let that affect us. And so I just wanted to today encourage everyone to take a friggin' breath. Everywhere I go, everyone has their knickers in a knot. Everybody, and I get it. I understand it. We are in really weird chartered territory, but we also are in control of how we respond. And I would really encourage everyone to take a breath and think about what is something you can do about that in a realistic way, and do that, because just shooting your mouth off and getting hairy on social media and booing at a hockey game, yeah, that's kind of fun and sexy, but it doesn't actually get us anywhere, and it doesn't get you anywhere in this crazy world that we're in.
Yeah, it's such great advice that you have. Of course, I'm all wrapped up in it. I'm following it minute by minute, so it's hard. It's hard to escape. What do you? I don't know. It sounds like you may have some insight. I mean, what do you do to try and block it out or not worry about it or kind of improve your mental health? Do you have any tips or pointers or anything like that, Louie?
Well, I do. Turn off your TV for a while. Turn off your TV. Shut down your social media for at least 1 hour every time you think that you're going a little bit nuts. Turn off your social media for a bit. All that is just armchair critics that are yipping and yapping all the time. Take back some of your own control and move forward with your brain attached to your social media or whatever the case may be, because you're only hurting yourself. And at the end of the day, this too will pass. Even if we get complete, 100% whatever tariffs and all that, we are going to make it through this. And just the core belief of you can't hurt me if I don't let you is really where you start.
Wow, great advice. Thank you so much for calling today. I kind of needed that.
Well, you're welcome.
Maybe that's helpful to some of the listeners. Yeah. I appreciate that.
Listening, and I appreciate you as well, Rob. So thanks for everything.
Well, thanks a lot. Isn't that great advice, David? Like, stop the doom scrolling, you know? I'm so bad for that, the doom scrolling.
It's easier said than done sometimes, too.
It's easier said than done. Yeah, I'm so totally addicted to the social media. Yeah, those little dopamine hits, I guess, Dave. Not getting a lot of dopamine from social media lately, however. Bradley is in Halifax. Hello, Bradley.
How are you doing today?
I'm good, Bradley. How are you?
Good. I just had two questions. One about Mark Carney. So if he gets back in, or if he gets to be in power and he doesn't have a seat in Parliament, what does he do? He can't go during question period. He can't.
You can sit in the gallery in the House of Commons.
Oh, but he can't speak. He can't really give policy. So really, would it be?
Well, he could go to the press theater. He could do a news conference. He could do scrums, but he can't, take any kind of seat in the House of Commons or anything like that. Yeah.
So even if he wins, it's pretty much going to be Chrystia Freeland being the person who's going to be answering all the questions until there's an election.
Maybe, or maybe Mark Carney has somebody else in mind. Maybe there's, a lot of the cabinet and a lot of MPs have endorsed him. So, well, you would think if he even bothers recalling the House at all, because the good money is that he's going to win on March 9th, and then the election is going to be called March 10th. And the House isn't going to come back at all until the election is settled. And he may have... he may come back and win a riding and be a member of Parliament and be the Prime Minister, or he may be the shortest tenured Prime Minister in the history of the country. So, yeah, stay tuned. We could be in an election campaign in 23 days, my friend. 23 days from now, the election campaign could begin. Thanks for the call, Bradley. Good to hear from you. Haven't heard from you in a while. You can call back anytime. Friday Free for All Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Open line, open topic today. Friday Free for All Talkback. Ryan in Bedford, Nova Scotia. Hello, Ryan. What's on your mind?
How's it going?
It goes, sir. It goes.
Just a quick comment there. One of your earlier callers, she just kind of mentioned the days of the past where Canada is a peacekeeper. I wish the notion Canadians could get, we haven't done any peacekeeping seriously since the 90s. It's this notion of us in a blue beret standing on a wall. That's gone. That has been gone for 20 plus years. So, that's a note. I'm surprised. I follow what's going on in the States right now, but I don't know if there's something going on behind the scenes, because I think I have a way to stave off the tariffs. I believe if Canada came across and said, we're going to increase our defense spending tomorrow, bring it up to 2%, but guess how we're going to do that? Every piece of equipment we're going to buy is American. We're going to buy their tanks, which we need. We're going to buy ships, which we need, submarines, which we need. Everything that we need, the American can make. So imagine Trump sitting there. He could be happy, say, look what I did for Canada. It's a win-win. We're actually getting a military. He can claim that he's done something. He'll get jobs for the Americans building the equipment. We'll keep jobs in Canada producing the materials to send down there. So they seem to be beating around the bush.
So, for example, I was going to raise this. If I could just interrupt, I was going to raise this. Okay. So right now, Government of Canada spends $41 billion a year on national defense. $41 billion a year. To meet the NATO target of 2% of GDP, we would have to double that to $82 billion. So your suggestion, I'm not saying I disagree with it, it's probably not a bad idea. Maybe somebody goes to Mr. Trump and says, Mr. Trump, what if we spent an extra $41 billion a year buying military hardware from you? Right?
Oh, yeah, no, I think that's, you're right on the numbers there, and I guarantee he would love that because he could take all the credit for it, and he's bringing jobs to the U.S., et cetera, et cetera. The one thing we can do with their GDP for the military, though, I think some people know, is they've talked about increasing the wages for members of the Canadian Forces. That actually counts as military spending. So that's a real easy way to increase spending, but keep the money at home, basically, and actually recruit more soldiers or sailors, airmen at the same time. And my last point is on that. I just pray, and Canada has always had, and I get it for economic benefits, we got to have Canadian content. We got to keep those jobs in Canada. We got to build our own shops. And we do garbage. Everything we build is overpriced. It's delayed. It doesn't work. So we just got to kind of sit there and say, what are we good at and what are we not good at? And they just got to look to Canadians and say, you know what? Defense is too important for us to use it as an economical tool to satisfy different parts of the country. We'll do it other ways, but when it comes to defense, like, let's just get rid of, getting less quality because we got to appease a certain region of the country. So anyhow, that's all I got to say there. But
good points all around. Thank you, Brian. Yeah, interesting perspective. Charlie in Grey Highlands. Hello, Charlie.
How you doing, Rob?
We're good today,
Rob,
Charlie.
all Canadians will have to bear arms to protect Canada if this escalates with Adolf Trump. Now, we, Canada, fought from the beaches of France to Berlin, and a lot of Canadians died and are buried over there. And we will fight again to keep our country free, and it will always be Canada and not a 51 state. If we have to, we will build a wall 18 feet high along the border of the United States to protect us from Adolf Trump. And we will use Canadian steel and connecting and concrete and all the rest to build this, and the rest of the world will probably come to help us. Thanks, Rob. That's all I got.
All right, Charlie. Okay, thank you. Francis in Listowel. Francis. Hello, Francis.
Yes, hello, Rob. Mine is kind of a two-part. First of all, we're degrading ourselves when we don't stand in respect for other people playing their national anthem. I don't care what country it is. We're lowering ourselves because of one particular person that we might say.
All right.
Because we don't agree. The other people, they're good people. They're honest. At least show a little respect and refrain ourselves and stand and it shows we're a better person. And the other part I would like to see all radio stations, TV shows, everything have nothing about Trump for at least one day. That would drive them nuts.
Right. Like a moratorium, a Trump moratorium.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, maybe Canadians could get behind that. That's probably something Canadians could rally behind. All right, Francis. Sure. Yeah. Thank you for your call. Bye-bye. Yeah, I mean, I will throw that out there again. This trend of sports fans booing the American national anthem before sporting events. It's certainly become a thing in this country. It happened last night at the Bell Center in Montreal, where they're having the Four Nations face-off. And last night's game, Finland versus the United States, and the Montreal fans booed quite vigorously the Star-Spangled Banner. Hockey fans in Ottawa actually got this going, David, a few weeks ago. They were the first to do it. You may recall.
We were the first ones.
Yeah. That was during a Hockey Night in Canada game. The Senators were playing Tampa, and they booed the American anthem. And since then, it's happened all kinds of times. The Raptors games in Toronto as well. But there's going to be a big hockey game tomorrow at this Four Nations tournament. Again, in Montreal, it's the United States versus Canada. Tomorrow night, Hockey Night in Canada. U.S. versus Canada. And you have all of this Trump stuff going on in the background. And, people saying they're going to boycott American products, canceling vacations to the U.S. A lot of Canadians, you can appreciate it. They're angry. They're not angry with the Americans. They're just angry with Trump. So they're booing the national anthem of the United States. I mean, if you were at that game tomorrow night, or any other sporting event for that matter, you're at a Jays game or whatever, and they play the U.S. national anthem, would you boo? I mean, would you take part in that? What would you say? 1-833-668-2577. It's a good Friday topic. Jim in Calgary. Just hang on the line, Jim. Actually, I have to stop here. I'll bring you back on in just a moment. It's the Friday Free-for-All Talkback Hour. This is News Radio.
something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Jim, you're up next on the Friday Free-for-All Talkback Hour in Calgary. What's up, Jim? What's on your mind?
Hi, Rob. Well, I'm a proud Canadian, and about the flags, I've been flying flags for over 40 years, and to go to our Canadian Tire to find a flag and to not find somebody who can find one for me, and when I do, it's built in China, and that's just not right.
Okay.
The quality is not there.
Right. Okay.
That's my only beef. It's just we're buying Chinese products that are not Canadian.
Right. Yeah.
Good luck with that. Have a great day.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Jim wants a Canadian flag that's actually made in Canada. I don't know. Maybe there's some out there. I haven't really checked. Peter in Langley, British Columbia. Hello, Peter.
Hello. I'm calling today because I'm tired of the way that we have federal elections, and I have no idea who to write a letter to.
Okay.
So far, the way we do elections there, we have a debate between leaders. And I see debates as totally useless. And I understand why we have debates. It's because the Americans have debates, and the Americans have debates because they like to see a good punch-up. They like to see the drama and people doing things and saying things. They love that entertainment.
Okay.
And I'm more interested in understanding what a potential leader is going to do and undo. So what I would like to see is more of an interview process. And, I would like to have different categories. For instance, you have like the category for government administration, and I would like to hear their ideas on what they're going to do with taxes, how big the government's going to be, ministry changes, how their understanding of health care and what their ideas are to fix it. You could have a military category, industry category. What's your ideas on pipelines? What are we going to do about energy distribution in the country? Category and environment. And, to me, when you're hiring someone for a job, you want to hear what their ideas are, qualifications for sure. But, it's a politician. What qualifications do you need? But, I wouldn't even mind if they had one or two people there to support them because, a politician isn't going to know and, remember every single thing. And I would like to really get an understanding of, are they going to roll back any programs?
Okay.
What
and you don't think all of this can come out in an hour and a half debate?
Well, let me ask you this question. Have you ever seen all this being come out in a debate so far?
That's debatable.
No, I think that debates are a waste of time because
I think they're a waste of time. Okay, yeah, sometimes they are. I guess a lot of it depends on the format of the debate. I've seen a lot of bad formats for debates over the years. Something like I don't know, the budget deficit is $60 billion. What would you do to balance the budget? You have 90 seconds, right? Okay, exactly. All right. Something like that, right?
And
yeah.
So who does someone write a letter to suggest a change? Who looks after that? How the elections?
I think there's a debates. Well, I think there's a debate commission. Is there not? We have a debate commission in this country.
You're well connected. That's why I'm calling you.
Yeah, I'm not pulling those strings, sir. Okay, thank you, Peter. I understand. Peter would prefer something like more like an intensive job interview style kind of introduction, I guess, to each of the candidates. Fair enough. I love a good debate myself. I like the leaders' debates. Let's go to Shane. Is in Alberta. Shane. Hi, Shane.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Shane. What's on your mind?
You played a video clip of audio clip of Donald Trump there talking about there's China ships in the water and Russia ships in the water, and he basically insinuates that in the event that one of these countries invaded Canada, the free military protection that the States has offered all these years is basically null and void, and he's more than happy to sit back and allow some country to come in here and take it over. That's kind of what he's insinuating, and that's laughable. That's a joke. And,
okay. Well, let's listen. David will play the clip. Can we play the clip, David? Just so everybody's aware of what we're talking about here.
They don't have any military protection because and you take a look at what's going on out there. You have Russian ships, you have China ships, you have Chinese ships, you have a lot of ships out there, and people are in danger. This is a different world today. It's a different world. They need our protection.
That's what he said yesterday in the Oval Office.
Yeah.
So you think he's insinuating that if there was a hostile actor tried to do something to Canada, they couldn't count on the Americans for defense anymore, right?
Well, don't you think that's kind of what he's insinuating?
Maybe that's what he's saying. Yeah.
I think it's Donald Trump style fear mongering, and I think the mistake he's making is he's assuming that everyone in this country is as daft as Trudeau has been. And so, as far as becoming the 51st state, like I said the other day, it's a terrific deal for the United States. But anybody that's a wage earner in this country that's gainfully employed, how many people do you want to compete for when it comes to your job? We got 40 million people in Canada, and if we become the 51st state, we'll be living in a country of 500 million because they have about, 400 million, 450. So do the math. So there's a whole bunch of problems that will come up for people, that think it's a good idea. They need to do the math and wake up. When you go to work somewhere, you compete for that job. And at least in Alberta here, there's some competition for a job, but if you have a decent work ethic and you do the job you're being paid to do and you're good at it, you can make a living. And if you have to compete with 10 times the amount of people, then how can that not have a negative effect on your wages?
Okay. Interesting points. Interesting points. We got to run. We're right out of time, unfortunately. Okay, Thank you so much for your call. The population of the United States, 335 million. 335 million is the population of the United States. I'm Rob Snow. Talkback on a Friday free for all. Join the discussion. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Yes, it is. Friday Free for All Talkback Hour. Winding down hour number one. A full hour ahead right after the latest breaking news at the top of the hour. Dennis in Petawawa, Ontario, up the line. How are things up the line, Dennis?
Things are good. Things are stressful. Things are, I don't know what to tell you. What I'm not hearing on here is any speak of Canadian retribution towards the Americans. And that bothers me a lot. No, it bothers me because I think you need to fight fire with fire. Therefore, this summer, if I see any red state plates parked anywhere in my area, I will slash all four tires. No, I will.
Don't be doing that. Don't be doing that, Dennis.
And here's the thing, though. I hope they come out and catch me. I do. I'm not kidding. We are at war with those idiots, and I am so tired of it. I'm sick and tired of it. I've got no time.
Fair enough. Yeah, but I can't have you on the radio, Dennis. I can't have you on the radio, advocating people take such actions. I think it's actually pretty dangerous for me to have you on the radio and you speaking like that. I would disavow what Dennis said. I would not encourage anybody to do that, of course. Don't do that. I understand. People are upset with Donald Trump, but there's no need to do that. I mean, if tourists are coming to, where Dennis is in Petawawa, and they're spending their money in Canada, maybe because they have friends or family, or they just want to spend time in Canada, why would you take it out on them? Whatever the person in the Oval Office is doing, It's about the administration. It's not about the people. I think a lot of the frustrations may be misplaced sometimes. So, Dennis, I can't encourage behavior like that. I hope you understand. But thank you for your call, nevertheless. All right, that's hour number 1 of Talkback on a Friday free-for-all. We have cleared the lines for you, so we'll reset things right after the latest breaking news coming up at the top of the hour, and then we'll roll into another full hour, more opinions, more topics, and more of your phone calls. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know on a Friday. Help us get into that long weekend, will you? Give us a call. 1-833-668-2577. The latest breaking news is coming up next on News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
So it's a brand new hour of Talkback, and it's still the Friday free-for-all, our final hour of the week for us before a long weekend. We'd love to hear from you before it all comes to an end for us. Any number of topics that we can talk about, but if you want to talk about something else, by all means. But, Donald Trump was at it again yesterday, and that's been the dominant story all week. Donald Trump, tariffs, 51st state, all of that, all over again. He was in the Oval Office again yesterday signing these executive orders, and he was asked again, what about tariffs? What about Canada? And once again, he let loose on Canada. David, let's play the first Trump clip that we played earlier in the show. Trump won. Let's roll tape on that.
Canada's been very bad to us on trade, but now Canada's going to have to start paying up. And Canada's been tough on the military because they have a very low military cost. They think we're going to, protect them with our military, which is unfair. So Canada's going to be a very interesting situation because, we just don't need their product. And yet they survive off the fact that we do 95% of what they do. And Canada is just absolutely, I say it, and sometimes people smile and sometimes they say great idea, but Canada, their taxes would come down greatly. Their security would go up greatly. Amazing things happen to Canada. And really Canada in this particular, why would we pay $200 billion a year in subsidies to Canada when they're not a state? You do that for a state, but you don't do that for somebody else's country. So I think Canada is going to be a very serious contender to be our 51st state.
So, there he goes again. He continues to make this claim, well, subsidizing Canada to the tune of $200 billion a year. Totally made up number. And it's become clear now, whatever trade deficit the United States has with Canada, that's all about discounts on oil exports. Anybody can look up the spread on the difference between the oil futures in the U.S. and Canadian oil futures. You don't have to be a White House economist to figure that out. Today, for example, we have our Canadian oils trading at a discount of $14 U.S. a barrel. And the Americans can't get enough of it. And then their refineries love to refine it. But anyway, no matter. It's a subsidy, according to him. And we've behaved so badly. We've treated the Americans so badly. So badly that we should become the 51st state. And you hear his pitch there. Much lower taxes. He has made the claim in the past we'd have better health care. Canadian health care has its own problems. We've talked about them at length on this show. I'm really not too sure how many Canadians would be all in for purely American health care. The American healthcare system often ranks lower than ours in the global rankings, which is hard to believe given the state of our own healthcare system. But he says we would have the protection of the mightiest military force in the world, and we wouldn't have tariffs, right? So that's his pitch. But it would seem not too many Canadians are interested on the offer. I don't know. What would you say? What goes through your mind when you hear that? Thanks, but no thanks. Hard pass. I mean, have you actually given it some thought? Are you saying, where do I sign up? I don't know. It's one more topic that we can throw out there. Nick in Calgary. Hello there, Nick.
Hey, Rob. First time caller. Appreciate you taking the call.
Thank you.
One of the things I find very disappointing from the Canadian perspective is how easily people are distracted. So Trump goes out and says a bunch of things, and everyone just leaps on board and goes anti-Trump and anti-U.S. Meanwhile, they get distracted from why Trump can even say these things and have it even be a consideration, which is how weak and vulnerable we've become, especially over the last 8-9 years. Economically, we're just been decimated. We can't get, like Alberta can't get product to market, and the Bloc is still saying that we'll never have a pipeline go through Quebec. So we're so vulnerable, but we're so easily distracted. Instead of focusing on the internal problems that have made us, low-hanging fruit for someone like Trump to say what he does and for it to be a legitimate consideration. I mean, look at our dollar, look at our debt, look at everything else, but we're just so easily distracted. Oh, Trump's the bad guy. We'll forget about Ottawa and all the terrible things they've been doing from within. Our biggest problem is from within, not from without.
Okay, Nick, that's your opinion, Nick. Thank you. Let's go to Emerson up next in Calgary. Thank you, Emerson, for your call. What's on your mind, Emerson?
Well, first of all, happy Valentine's Day. You always treat me like family when I call. So I think
thank you so much, Emerson. Same to you.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to comment about how Rick Bell was in the paper, I think it was just yesterday morning, saying, what if Canadians lost their minds? Can they actually not remember what Trudeau did? Oh, my God.
Yeah, I remember that column, yeah.
Well, I just say this. Let's remind people the same thing happened with Kamala Harris when Joe Biden got kicked to the curb and then she took over. The Democrats are on fire. She was going to win 5 out of the 7 swing states, blah, blah, blah. I think it's a natural reaction for people to say, oh, my God, we got something, new in the oven. Let's see what it is. But when it comes right down to it, the Conservatives are going to remind Canadians of the hell they were put through for 9 years with Trudeau. And Carney can be nice and fresh, but at the end of the day, he still washes with the same soap bar as Trudeau does. So I don't think it's going to work. It scares you. It scares you. I mean, it's scary. I mean, I would say it's scary. But at the end of the day, I think once the election's actually called, the writs dropped, you're going to see a completely different reaction because people are going to put their thinking caps on. And people are scared. They got to make a decision. People are scared. But I just want to say, Rob, thank you for being so authentic with your audience, being truthful, just like the guy who called about the tires. You said, no, we're not going to have that. Thank you, because let's keep it civil. Let's not lose our minds. We want to be a class act. We want to be a class act.
You want to take the high road. Take the high road.
And I wish I could give you a bump in your income because you deserve it. God bless you.
Okay.
Have a nice week.
I can give you my boss's phone number if you want. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you, Emerson. But David, if you could just isolate that little clip of Emerson there, and we'll send that along to the boss.
I'm emailing it to Mark right now. I'm all over.
All right.
I'm all over.
Thank you. Okay, let's stop here. It's Talkback. It's Friday. It's the Friday free-for-all, okay? So we'll just follow your lead. We'll try to follow along. We may not agree on everything, but we can kick around the issues for a while. I'm Rob Snow. Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
It's a Friday free-for-all. Talkback, as a matter of fact. Let's go to Karen up next. Hi, Karen. You're on the air. What's on your mind, Karen?
I just wanted to talk about Donald Trump. The guy's very bombastic. He's so bombastic. He's got Canadians running in circles. Let's just, like the lady said, take a breath.
Okay.
Think about what he wants to do and just wait until we decide what's going to happen in Canada. Stop running around, bouncing around, because he's enjoying it. He's doing it all over the world. He gets a kick out of this.
Okay.
He really does.
You think he's doing it just to what? Feed his own ego? You don't think there's anything behind it?
Oh, I think it is, but he's just running.
Okay.
It's like throwing out, sand or throwing out, coins to see who runs around and picks them up off the ground. He's just throwing it to see what sticks. And if it sticks, he goes, yeah, that works. I'll do that again. It's just the type of guy he is.
All right. So do you think we should be... Just a second, Karen. Do you think we should be worried at all when he talks about making Canada the 51st state? Or do you think he's...
No.
You don't? Okay. All right.
No, I think Canadians will stick together, and if worse comes to worse, we'll put the boots to the guy.
Okay. All right. Okay.
The other thing I wanted to mention was yesterday's show. I didn't get a chance to call about the mental health and addiction.
Yes.
So 30 years ago, I was a crack addict, and the
really?
only way I got out was I got lucid, and I thought, I'm going to die. If I keep doing this, I'm going to die. So yes, we need support. We need follow-up. And honestly, it saddens me that people are dying 4 and 5 times a day and being brought back to life. That's horrific. Okay. So we need to do something. Follow-up, treatment, counseling, whatever we can do.
I guess the question yesterday was more about, harm reduction. What if you had a safe space to do your crack? Or what if you had a safe government-supplied replacement for crack or something like that? Would you be sober now?
No, I'd probably be dead.
You'd be dead.
If it was free and supplied to me, absolutely.
Yeah, you'd be dead. Yeah. Okay, all right. Wow, Karen, you're an inspirational story. I'm glad you're still around. Thank you for being open and honest about that. I appreciate that. God bless you. Thank you. But by the grace of God, sometimes, eh? Kevin in Calgary. Hello, Kevin. You're on the air. What's on your mind? Hi there, Kevin. Can you hear me?
Hear you?
Let's try again. Kevin, are you there? Yeah, I hear you now, Kevin. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I'm just saying I'm a first-time caller, and I just wanted to say I agreed with Nick that we are our own worst problem here in Canada. We could be such a wealthy country. We have all the resources that the whole world needs, yet we don't access any of them. We don't access any world markets. We are our own biggest problem, and Trump is just highlighting that fact. And everybody's blaming him for the problem, but really it is just our own internal problem. The corrupt governments we have, that nothing gets built, everything is put on hold for this and that. There's a book, and the fentanyl crisis is a problem in Canada.
I would say so, yeah.
If you read the book Willful Blindness by Sam Cooper, it's incredible the amount of fentanyl being produced in Canada and shipped around the world. So Trump is just highlighting all these problems, and we need to fix them within our own country before we worry. And if we fixed all those things, we wouldn't have to worry about Trump.
No, I don't know, because his list of complaints keeps growing by the day. But thank you for your call, Kevin. I mean, it's hard to keep up with all of his complaints about Canada. I don't know where it comes from or what fuels it. I think a lot of it may have to do with a lack of respect for Justin Trudeau, but that would be just speculation on my part. I mean, he called him Governor Trudeau again yesterday, and he's surrounded by members of his cabinet, and they all have a good chuckle at that. But all of these gripes about Canada never came up during the campaign. I mean, tariffs certainly came up. Trump would mention tariffs at all of his campaign rallies, but he never went out of his way to single out Canada the way he is now. I mean, now he seems to have a real hate on for us. I mean, this stuff, $200 billion subsidy for Canada, it's stuff and nonsense. It's completely made up. He says we're not a viable country. He tries to convince us that our lives would be so much better if only we were American. He says the U.S. doesn't need anything Canada makes. Well, I bet you some Canadians would like to put that to the test. Just the other day, he was saying Canada stole the auto sector from the United States. We stole the auto sector from the United States. Apparently, Not ever hearing about the Auto Pact, which was signed by President Johnson back in 1965, for crying out loud. He says, we stole the auto sector. We stole the auto sector. He rails against Canada, like us, the nice guys, Canada, and says all kinds of terrible things about our country. And then, in the same breath, he turns around and he just can't sing the praises of Vladimir Putin enough. I don't know. I guess you live long enough, you see strange things. I'm Rob Snow. It's Talkback. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now. Hello. 1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
George, you're up next on the Friday Free-for-All. What's on your mind today?
Everything, but I can only talk about a few things. So, number one, President Trump needs Canadian stuff. 4.5 million barrels a day of our oil goes to the United States down into central U.S. where all those refineries are. Without our oil, they'd have to bring it in from Venezuela and someplace. And everybody says, oh, it's that rough, horrible tar sand stuff. Well, it's the best stuff in the world because it makes diesel, jet fuel, gasoline, kerosene, and tar, and paraffin wax too. So they do need that. And
right,
now,
and as I understand it, the refineries that you're talking about are equipped to refine that type of crude, right? The heavy crude.
Yes, they are.
And whereas they would have to retrofit or retool or whatever and probably spend a considerable sum of money if they were bringing in lighter blends, right? Do I have that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that is it. And you wonder, why haven't we built refineries here? Well, because the old companies up here, like CNR, especially them crooks, have went down and bought the refineries there, so they're milking it at both ends of the bag.
Yeah, well, plus, how long? Well, it's not just that. I mean, how long would it take, if it would ever even see the light of day? How long would it take to build an oil refinery in Canada?
It wouldn't take long if you jerked off all the restrictions and made it so you could actually do something.
Yeah. And
they let all them greenies stick their noses in.
Well, exactly. Can you imagine the opposition from the environmental movement if somebody even announced they were going to open an oil refinery in Canada?
Who cares? We'll go kick the crap off and say, get the hell back to the States.
Okay, all right. Okay. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there. Look, I'm just putting it out there, sir. Okay? Yeah.
Like all these environmental guys get their money from the Tides Foundation and the Rockefellers in the United States. And their plan is to keep Alberta oil landlocked through these environmental guys, so it has to go to the States so they get their aid. Okay. And that is a true fact. There's one other thing before I go.
Okay, very quickly.
And Mr. Trump is correct. Our military is in disgrace. It is an embarrassment.
Yeah, I'll have more to say about that after the news. I'll have more to say about that after the news. Yeah, I will. Yeah, that's about the only accurate thing he says. When we're laggards on military spending, we sure are. But again, getting to that 2% NATO target, easier said than done in this country under multiple governments, both political stripes. Let's go to where are we going next? Cambridge. Tom in Cambridge. Hello, Tom.
How you doing?
I'm fine.
Part of our problems just did not start 9 years ago. The interprovincial trade issues have been around for a long, long time. So one of your callers is actually right. We've got to figure our own problems out with interprovincial trade, which would help a lot of us out immensely. There's also seems to be now a conflicting, what I say, a conflict of interest with two political leaders here right now, with Mr. Ford and Mr. Poilievre. Well, Mr. Ford was so happy that Mr. Trump got in. But all of a sudden it comes out of it. If that's where your alliance or your allegiance lies, or that's what you're supporting, I would be very cautiously thinking, why would I want to vote PC for Mr. Trump? And then Poilievre is doing the same things that he ridiculed and raked over about going to certain people's private islands for vacations or attending certain functions and that. And he's also got a recommendation from Elon Musk. Now, again, is that sort of a conflict of interest? Then why would we want to even consider that, seeing there's such an uproar about this?
Well, I don't know. I mean, Elon Musk expressed that he didn't think much of Trudeau, right? What did he call him? An insufferable fool, right? An insufferable fool. And said he preferred Pierre Poilievre. I think if you stopped 100 people in the street these days, you'd find a lot of people who agreed with Elon Musk on that point. I don't think there's any kind of conflict there. I think it's pretty self-evident, actually, Tom. Thank you. Thank you for all your calls this week. Multiple caller this week. Be back right after the news. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We're in the home stretch of the Friday Free-for-All Talkback, but plenty of time to fit you in, share an opinion on a topic that's on your mind. Christy up next in Alberta. Hello, Christy. What's on your mind today?
Hello. Oh, well, we are freezing our butts off here in Alberta. So that
we're
sucks.
digging out here in this part of the country. So we're digging out. I got 40 centimeters of snow that I had to plow out of my driveway yesterday. So.
Oh, ugly.
Yeah.
But, what I'd like to discuss today is, the way I look at Donald Trump is he is just the biggest bully in the world right now. And, he is going to keep picking on Canada until we can get our stuff together, basically. We have a pathetic leader who has stepped away. We don't have a sitting house. We don't have any ducks in a row. Yes, the premiers have done a better job than our freaking leader. And until we get a strong, powerful leader or someone who can actually step up to him, I mean, look at he's threatened everybody pretty much in the world. Mexico, he's pulled the aid out of Africa. Like, the guy has not let up on pretty much any country, and now he's going to be friends with Putin. So, he is just a bully, and he will just keep picking on us until we can get our stuff together. And we need to get an election, and we need a new leader. And I hope it's a conservative leader, and I hope he can, sit across from the table and kind of stand up for us. Because Justin Trudeau's doing a pathetic job.
Okay. Well, I mean, despite this diplomatic push that everybody has been on, federally and all the premiers, as you mentioned, going to Washington this week, I mean, they don't really have much to show for it, do they?
No, nothing.
No.
So, I mean, like I said, he just picks on us, and until we can have someone who can stand up for our country, he's just going to keep doing it, throw the slings, because he's just your classic bully. He's just downright a horrible person. I don't wish very well for him. And, I mean, he's even bad to his own people. I mean, some of the stuff he's done. So.
All right, Christy, thank you for your call and sharing your opinion today. Tom is in Kitchener. Hello, Tom. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Rob. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good to hear from you.
I got a geography lesson for you.
Okay.
What great nation is north of United States?
I guess that's ours, yeah.
Yes. And what great nation is just north of Canada? Russia.
Okay, right.
Just wait a minute. It gets better. If Russia wants to shoot a missile at the United States and the United States wants to shoot an interceptor to catch it, where are they going to collide?
I don't know, sir. I don't know.
They're going to collide over Canada.
I suppose it depends on how fast it's going, I guess, so, yeah.
No, it isn't, but it's going to collide over Canada.
Okay.
Because we're directly in between them.
All right. So what's your point?
There's no other thing. Well, my point is that we're subsidizing the United States for $200 billion with our lives. Okay? Number one.
Okay.
Number two, where's Andrew Scheer been? Andrew Scheer,
yeah, what about him? He's the opposition House leader. Where should he be? He's the opposition House leader, sir.
Just wait a minute.
What power does he have?
Well, he's the right-hand man to Pierre Poilievre.
Right. And Pierre Poilievre's the leader of the opposition. What power does he have?
He has the power because he's also United States citizenship. That came out through the last little bout when he went after Marcel Dion and everybody else.
Yeah. Right.
He went through that. And so anyways, now what's going on with him? He hasn't been heard since the spat with the United States started.
I don't know, David. David, didn't you just interview Andrew Scheer?
Yeah, last week.
6 days ago.
Last Wednesday.
6 days ago, something like that, right?
Okay,
for 20 minutes or so, you know.
Okay, but what's he saying?
Well, what does it matter what Andrew Scheer says, sir? He's the opposition House leader, for crying out loud, right? He's not in the cabinet.
He's got something to say. Yeah, he's a candidate, but he's also a member of the United States.
What can Andrew Scheer do now that would make any difference?
Well, nothing.
In the mind of Donald Trump, right? You send the prime minister down there, nothing happens. You send the minister of finance down there, nothing happens. You send the foreign affairs minister down there, nothing happens. 13 premiers go to Washington. They get basically laughed at on social media by members of the Trump administration. And you're seriously coming on the radio and saying, well, what about Andrew Scheer? What about Andrew Scheer? What can Andrew Scheer do that none of these other people have done? What, because he had American citizenship at one point?
Still does.
Okay. All right. Tom, I don't know. You're not making a lot of sense. You usually make more sense than that, Tom, but you're not making a lot of sense today. Let's go to Fifth in Waterloo. Fifth.
Hey, how's it going, Rob?
I'm fine. Thank you. What's on your mind? What do you want to talk about?
Well, about Trump. What I want everybody to know is where Trump came from. He was a billionaire to a show host saying, you're fired, to this. So he's always been when he was on the Celebrity Apprentice as the host, he was always a bully. So that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to bully Canada into seeing it like Canada will become his state, which nobody will. But he's going to try his best.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think do you think that's an ultimate goal of his to take us over?
Yeah, that's he said it like a billion times now. He's been hitting on Trudeau, but I don't know what his thing is on Poilievre. So I want to know that when Poilievre comes in and then he talks about Poilievre, or the next prime minister. But right now he just hates Trudeau. So I know he wants Trudeau to be governor.
Right. You think it's a lot of. You think some of this is motivated by his dislike or lack of respect for Justin Trudeau. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
You hope things could improve if, say, Poilievre wins the election, for example.
Right. Exactly. Poilievre or Mark Carney.
Well, the only time Pierre Poilievre's name has even come up, I believe Mr. Trump's line was, "I don't care what he says. I don't care what he says."
So there you go. He at least doesn't care about Poilievre. He doesn't say, oh, he's Poilievre, there's no Governor Poilievre or anything like that. At least with Trudeau, he's saying that because he has a hatred towards Trudeau. With Poilievre, he's neutral with him, sort of.
All right. Okay. Afif, thank you for your call. We'll be right back with more of your phone calls here on the Friday Free for All Talkback Hour. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
It sure is Friday Free for All Talkback. Stuart, up next. You're on the air, Stuart. What's on your mind today?
Hey, Rob. How are you doing?
I'm good, Stuart. Thanks. Go ahead.
First of all, huge fan of your show. I've been actually meaning many times to call in, and I wanted to go over a couple things, but I really want to call in after one of your callers called earlier about slashing American tires and stuff like that. I honestly think we need to do the opposite. There are so many good people in America who are not agreeing with what's happening, with Mr. Trump. And if those people are going to show their support and want to come up here and try to support our local economies, and we should be welcoming them with open arms and thanking them for standing with us and that sort of thing. So I really, really highly encourage that if we see Americans, thank them for coming up here and embracing Canada. The whole bit about the 51st state, here's why I don't think it'll ever happen. And it'll be more on the American side, right? Because if you think about it, let's just say for a second it happened. I'm a staunch Canadian. I'm vehemently against becoming a 51st state. But let's just say it happened for a second. Here's why it would never happen, is because our population is the same as California's, basically, right? And so then if Canada did become the 51st state, between Canada and California, we would have 1/3 of the Electoral College vote. We would have 1/3 of the House. Sure, we'd have 2 senators like everybody else, right? You think Canada and California are really going to vote Republican after all this? Oh, my God. The Republicans would hand over the presidency in the House to the Democrats basically for eternity.
Yeah, David, didn't you crunch some numbers on that, David?
I did not, but the Associated Press did. Let me pull that up.
Okay.
Let me pull that up here. Yeah, we would. Canada would have more electoral college votes than California would, and 55 House of Representatives seats.
Okay.
Right. So we would have 57 delegates in the Electoral College. That would be more than California. So Canada...
So it'd be the big prize on election night would be Canada.
Like when we talk about all of these swing states every election cycle, like, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, like they wouldn't really be swing states anymore because the calculus would totally change. It's fascinating.
Yeah. Right. And that's what you're kind of keying in on there, Stuart, right?
Unfortunately, I couldn't hear what the other guy was saying there on the
David,
on the
yeah. Okay, sorry about that. Okay.
No,
he was saying it would totally change the makeup of the Electoral College, and what were sometimes competitive, swing states like Pennsylvania or whatever, Pennsylvania wouldn't really matter. The big prize would become Canada. And as you say, it might doom the Republicans to defeat for generations to come. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so much control into 2 quote unquote states, right?
I
could never see Canada, if it ever happened, actually voting Republican after all this fiasco.
After all this, it's an interesting way to look at it, Stuart. Thank you for your call. Good to hear from you. Thanks for calling for the very first time as well. Don't make it the last time. Brian in Camrose up next. Hi, Brian.
How's it going?
Oh, everything's fine here, Brian.
Hello?
What's up?
Oh, good.
Yep, go up.
Right on.
Yep.
Hey. Just wanted to let you know I enjoy your show very much.
I appreciate that, Brian. Thank you. Very kind.
Thank you. No problem. Rob, what I wanted to talk about, that last caller was pretty interesting. That would be something, if we had the control of the United States vote, because I don't think Trump would get back in again.
I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. Anyways, not after this, anyway. Not after this.
Exactly. Yeah. One thing, I think what Trump's doing is a good thing for Canada. Like, all he's asking us to do is to control our border. Like, stop letting immigrants in, stop letting drug trafficking in.
Yeah.
That's all he's asking for. Why? We should have done that 20 years ago.
And his complaint about military spending, right? Military spending.
Well, that too. Well, that we have to look after. Why shouldn't we?
Of course, yeah.
We've got the money to do it. Instead of spending it over in Iran or wherever it goes, spend it here.
Okay. Well, that's, one of the pitches that Pierre Poilievre made this week is, I'll put a base in Iqaluit, for example. He said I would build CFB Iqaluit within 2 years, buy 2 icebreakers, double the size of the Ranger Patrol in the north. And if you're wondering where I would get the money from, well, I would take it from money that we spend right now on foreign aid.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, as long as he does what he says, perfect. I'm all for it. But I don't think Trump's tariffs are that far out. Like, we should.
You don't think his demands are all that unreasonable, by the sounds of things?
Correct. Yes.
I gotcha. Okay, Brian. I have to end our conversation there. We're a little tight on time, and I want to fit some more calls in just before we have to call it a day and call it a week and start the long weekend. We'll be right back. If you are on the line, I'll hope to get you on the air. Just hang tight. This is News Radio.
something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
All right, let's get some closing thoughts for the week here on the Friday Free-for-All from Harvey in Calgary. Hello, Harvey. What's on your mind, Harvey? Are you with me, Harvey? Are you there?
Hi.
Harvey?
Hello. Hi, Rob.
Hi,
I'm
Harvey.
here.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm
I
good.
love
I'm
your
good.
show, as you know. I was
very
on
kind.
yesterday. You remember?
Okay. Okay. All right, Harvey. Yeah. What's up?
So I just got something, something simple to say. We always talk about negativity. We never think about what something positive someone's done. I'll just have one example, and that's it. It's about Trump. I like Trump. I like what he's doing.
Oh, really? Okay.
He's a good leader. And there's one thing that he did, and he did it with his own money. It was in New York where they were having problems with the ice rink, and it was right in the square. It's a popular area. And the city spent millions on it, and the ice would just melt. So Trump, with his own money, fixed the problem, and people were able to enjoy it. So, I mean, there's just one example of something positive that he's done. So,
okay. All right. Okay.
What I wanted to share.
All right, Harvey. Thank you very much. Yeah, I remember something about that. I don't know all the ins and outs about it. I'd have to look it up. I think that was some kind of rink in Central Park, I think, in New York City. But I don't know the details. Jeff, I think it's going to be the last call of the week. Jeff, go ahead in Cambridge.
Hi. I'd like to hit on the Mr. Ford's heart hubs.
Oh, yeah.
Just a
okay. Yeah.
Question
Yeah,
for
just for the listeners, these are the outlets that are going to be open to replace supervised consumption sites that are to be to down, right?
Correct. And
Yes,
it's
gotcha.
HART, and the H is for
HART.
homeless, which I take offense to because homeless. There's I wrote it down somewhere. There's 234 in Ontario homeless. And I don't think they're all have addictions. But anyways.
Okay, when you say there's 234 homeless people in Ontario, I mean, there's more than that.
100,000. 234,100,000. Just forget that.
Okay.
Right, sorry about that.
That's
so
okay.
Do you think they're private or for profit? They're private and for profit.
Okay, I'm not sure. I know the government is going to spend a lot of money on them, hundreds of millions of dollars to open these facilities, right?
Taxpayers are going to pay for it. But what's going on is, in my opinion, is that it stays, you go in for 1 month, and that's usually 1 month, so you're out. And then you come back in a couple more months for another month. But what's going on, though, is it's a revolving door, which is it takes on average 7 to 8 times of 1 month stays.
Okay.
And there's two reasons for that. One reason is, of course, its rates at 1 month are the highest charged. So after 1 month, it goes down to long term.
So you're saying, because our time is tight, we only have about 30 seconds here. Are you saying that private companies are going to be operating these heart hubs in Ontario?
It's my assumption. It's just
your assumption. Okay.
Private.
All right. Well, we can do some digging into that. I don't know if that's
it's 1 month stays, and then people usually they can't have for 8 months. You can be cured.
Right. Your concern is somebody's going to be making a lot of money off of this. I don't know if that's the case, sir. We can do some looking into it for you. Thank you for all of your calls all of this week. If you get the long weekend, enjoy it with your families, and we'll be back on Tuesday here on News Radio.